Hi, I'm Sherri Sulkowski, and welcome to Knit On. Today's a really special show. I know you're going to enjoy it, and I'm especially enjoying having some of my friends here today. And what we're going to talk about is belonging to a knitting group. I think it's really important for everybody to have some friends and some acquaintances that you can sit and knit with and share ideas, because the old saying is, if I have one idea and you have one idea, if we share, then we each have two ideas. And that's generally what happens when knitters get together. And historically speaking, knitting groups have always been very popular. So I brought in some of my friends today, and I'd like to introduce them to you, and we'll let them talk a little bit today too. Everybody's so used to hearing me talk, I think they're going to be glad that you're here with me too. So first of all, we have Helen with us today, and Helen has knitted for a long time. She's brought some of her projects with her today to show us. Helen, why don't you tell us a little bit about your personal history of knitting? When did you learn to knit? How old were you when you learned to knit?
Well, I was probably around 12 years old.
12?
And I was taught by a man.
Uh-huh.
And from there on in, I was on my own. I didn't have a teacher.
Yeah.
I had to knit and rip.
And rip.
And knit and rip until I got it
right.
right.
Right. I think we've all had a little bit of that sort of experience. And next to Helen is Katie. And some of you might recognize our third guest, who is Mary Kate. Mary Kate has been on the show before, and Katie is her mom. So Katie, tell us a little bit about learning to knit.
Let's see, I started knitting before Mary Kate was born, and I just enjoyed it so much, and I've gone from different yarn shops, and I've learned so much from you, Sherri, and from the show and everything.
Thank
and
you.
I love it.
Good. So that's all the longer you have been knitting, is since right before she was born?
About 6 or 7 years. Now I
Oh
crochet.
my gosh, as many things as you have made. I thought that you had been doing this for way longer than that.
I have a knack, I think. I crocheted as a child and then gave it up, and I never knitted. But once I got in my ideas, you know, I thought, I can do this.
Right.
And then I started knitting.
Right. So who taught you then?
Well, first, if I remember correctly, I learned from a woman out in Tonydale. She has a little, she's a German woman. I picked up some from there, and then I went to, you know, Carol's in Bridgeville, and then, of course, to the knit shop in Canonsburg. And then I did a lot on my own from the computer. You know, I'd sit there and look up and knit.
Right. Right. That's been one of the great additions to the knitting world, has been the internet, because there's almost nothing that you can't find on the internet now. For those of you who haven't started using that as a source, it's a great way to find free patterns as well as knitting groups. I know that Lion Brand, who we have talked about here on the show before, is starting to do sort of a centralized way for everyone to find knitting groups. So you'll want to look for that on their website. They are now getting that up and ready, so you'll want to check that out soon if you're looking for a knitting group. And then we have Miss Mary Kate. And how long have you been knitting, Mary Kate?
A year.
About a year.
And Mom taught me.
Mom taught you?
Like 12 years ago, and I really liked it. And Alex was in too, but then he didn't want to do it anymore.
He didn't.
But I want to do it more.
Oh, and tell everybody, who's Alex?
He's my brother.
He's your brother. And how old is he?
I can't
He's
remember.
13.
He's 13. And how old are you?
5.
5. I think the last time you were here, you might have just been 4 when you were on the show, huh?
So.
Yeah, and you were 4 when you learned to knit, right? Yeah, which is very young. But Mary Kate has a great attention span and is very patient and has, I think, really great hand-eye coordination. And those are all the things that you need to knit, aren't they, Mary Kate? Yeah. What's your favorite thing to knit? Do you have a favorite thing to knit, like a scarf or a pillow, or is there something in particular that you like to knit?
This Mary Kate?
I like to knit scarves.
Scarves. Excellent. I think you have one on needles right now that Mom's pulling out for you to show to us, huh?
Yeah.
You've done this all by yourself?
Yeah.
Hold it up so they can see how long it is, Mary Kate. You've done such a lovely job. And I like those. Are these the needles that we had on the show the last time
Yes.
that we showed had sparkles in them? Have you enjoyed working with those? Have you? Do you think that might be a good idea for some of the other kids to get some kind of sparkly needles or fun needles? Does that make it more fun to knit then? Yeah, good for you. Good for you. So aside from sitting here and knitting with me today, have either of you ever belonged to a knitting group or no? This is your first knitting group, Helen?
Yes.
We're honored. We're absolutely honored that you're here with us today. But you have,
Yeah,
yes.
I was in the one with you, and I loved it. It's so
Yeah.
nice to go and talk and
Right.
knit at the same time.
Right. And a lot of times the things that we talk about have nothing to do with knitting, but that's
No.
okay too.
Sometimes I have to remember why I'm there, not just
Yeah.
to talk, but to knit.
But we do get some things accomplished, I think.
right.
Yes, yes. Well, you've brought some things, Helen, I think that you wanted to show. And actually, it was a surprise to you even that these things arrived at the show today. Tell us how
Forgot
that.
all about them.
Forgot all about them. How did they arrive at the show today?
My daughter.
Your daughter. Yeah, got into the archives, and we'd like to thank her for doing that. Audrey is off camera, but she's been a big help today. And she brought these things in that Helen knitted when Audrey was a child. We won't say how long ago that was. But they were in her Barbie case, and for those of you who are around my age, you remember that little trunk that Barbie had, and you put all those great things in there. But Helen hand knit all of these things for Audrey's Barbies. I can't believe you still have them. They are so fabulous. And Helen remembers knitting most of these on size 0 needles, which I was comparing earlier to pulling a straw out of a broom and knitting with it. I mean, that is how slender those needles are. But I mean, every little ensemble has just multiple pieces to it. We have a cape and skirt and top and hat in this gorgeous, what color would you call that? Sort of turquoise, do you think? Or teal? Isn't that pretty? Yes, and just all kinds of ski sweaters and shawls and dresses and really incredible. I think this little evening gown is just adorable. You can see very revealing in the back, obviously. Just adorable, knit in seed stitch, and like we said, on about a size 0 needle. So the patience.
I think these are one, Sherri.
Yeah,
too,
the
so
ones
it's
that
even less
the
than
ones
this.
that yeah. So even finer than what I've shown here on the show, and what Katie and I normally use for socks. So when you're knitting things, that's something that you might want to keep in mind is that, these things last forever. You only have to do them right once. We rip them out sometimes, but once we get it right, then it's right forever. And this is just a testament to that, isn't it? And she has had these things in her Barbie case and pulled these out as a surprise to her mom this morning and a surprise to me as well. I'm so, so grateful that she brought all of these. They are just absolutely fabulous and
beautiful.
Adorable. And sometimes you think, well, knitting something small is easier, and I assure you that, it isn't always the case. As some of you might know, I've been on Dr. Edmond's show, Healthy Pets, and I make dog coats. And when I did dog coats for his little tiny miniature dachshunds, it was way harder for me to do than when I do it for my greyhounds who weigh 60 and 90 pounds. So sometimes bigger is a little bit easier to produce. And so I know how much time went into all of these, and we're just so, oh, look how, you showed this one. Can you show the front of that, how it has those, turn it toward the camera, Mary Kate, and show them how it has those really fabulous stitches in the front. Don't you think that's just fabulous?
Wouldn't you like to wear that, Mary Kate? You could.
That is just excellent, huh? Now, do you play with Barbies at home at all? Do you? Yeah, so that would be something that would still be a great idea for moms today to do as Barbie clothes, huh? Don't you think? So what are you working on these days then? This was a while back, and like I said, I promised Audrey we wouldn't say how far back, but what are you working on these days? Ah.
These are the chemo caps.
Chemo caps,
Wow.
one of my favorite projects. And as we go to break today, we're going to be having some websites listed as we go out. They have the graphics for me, and we're going to be featuring some of the great charity opportunities that you have, because a lot of times when we're in groups, those are the things that we share with each other, and a lot of charity knitters will get together and sort of put their heads together and share patterns and things. These are chemo caps, which are given to patients that are experiencing hair loss. Look how pretty those colors are. I bet you like those, don't you?
That is pretty.
And you put a little bit of a spin there on my pattern, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yes, that is so adorable with that spiral sort of rib to it. Really attractive, Helen. And that's another thing we do as knitters is sort of, do our own thing once we have a basic pattern, kind of do something a little bit different to keep from being monotonous or what have you. So there's a ribbed one. Really great. I imagine this would fit really snugly and nice and be warm. Yeah.
Keep nice and warm.
Yeah, which is, once you've lost your hair, you really
need something
need
like
that. Exactly. Here's one in a little bit of a basket weave and another spiral one. Can you see how those stitches are? You want to hold that one? Can you go to that camera right there? Can you see camera 3 and hold that up for them, Mary Kate? Excellent. You are such a big help on my show. And here's one that we've had some color changes in, and another striped one. Excellent. So you think that you've done
and I have one that's on the needles.
On needles. Beautiful color.
Little shoes on her heels.
And you have some holders on the ends of your needles so
so
that your stitches don't slide off.
I'm good at losing
You're
stitches.
good at losing them.
What a good idea to have those. Look at those.
And they look like little
booties.
socks.
Yeah,
Those are
little
excellent.
socks.
Those are excellent. I've seen those in some of the catalogs.
And then when she's ready to knit, she
Great.
takes those off. Aren't those
Excellent. Did you see they look like socks? Aren't those funny? Excellent. So that you would advocate those for knitters out there who are having that trouble with their double points, is to get some of those to put on the ends.
The
And they
ones
just slide
that are
on.
losing stitches.
Right.
I have them on the end of this one too.
Oh, now what is this?
Now this is what I'm making a baby Afghan.
How beautiful. Who's expecting?
My hairdresser wanted one for somebody in the family that's going to have
Oh,
a
really?
baby.
Excellent. Well, that's going to be
That's the
a
wrong
very lucky
side.
baby, don't you
This
think?
is the right.
Oh, this
There
is
we go. That is going to be a very lucky baby.
beautiful.
Did you have any blankets knitted for you when you were a baby? Do you know? No? No baby blankets? No. Sometimes that's a good beginner's project because there isn't much shaping to it. Even though it's a bigger project, a lot of people will do that when they're kind of learning a little bit because they don't have to worry about making it look like a sleeve or making it look like the top of a neckline or something like that, huh?
Yeah.
So what are your plans? Now that you've done some scarves, can you turn toward the camera, sweetie, so everybody can see you? What are you planning on knitting next? What do you suppose you're going to do besides scarves? A hat. What a great idea, because it was snowing out there whenever we came in today, huh? A hat would be an excellent idea. Yeah, great.
Beautiful.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us for the first segment. We're just about ready for a break. As I said, we're going to be going to some graphics that are going to help you find some websites that have some great charity projects. I want you to all think about taking some of your knitting time and producing things for people that might need them. So the graphics that are coming up will help you find those websites and make those connections. Come on back for the second segment. My friends are going to be here again.
You can't seem to lose those extra pounds off your midsection. And your joints hurt when you take the stairs? Well, you're getting older. But I'm happy to say that there's some simple things we can do to keep you happy and healthy for years to come. We can also lower your risk for some serious diseases the older population is often subject to. Proper nutrition is more important than ever. Your body has changed, you know. Not as many treats. A basic exercise plan, lots of walks and fresh air, and most importantly, come and see me for twice-yearly checkups to help ensure the best possible quality of life. Now, how does that sound? Good boy.
Improve the quality of life for your elderly pet. Schedule twice-yearly checkups that include preventive care and regular lab work. A message from the veterinary members of the American Animal Hospital Association.
Diabetes is a killer. After I was diagnosed, I didn't feel sick, so I didn't listen to my doctor. Then it struck. I had a heart attack, then a stroke, and I was only 49.
Most people with diabetes also have high blood pressure and cholesterol, which can cause severe heart damage. In fact, 2 out of 3 people with diabetes die from heart disease or stroke.
Don't let diabetes destroy your life.
Call for your free diabetes survival guide. Choose to live.
Today, 36 million Americans live in poverty, but one by one, people are helping themselves and each other to change the picture of poverty to one of hope. For easy ways you can help, visit povertyusa.org.
If you're planning a home renovation, you could get tetanus from the bacteria in this. To prevent both tetanus and diphtheria, another serious infectious disease, get the TD booster every 10 years. If it's been 10, do it again.
Welcome back. I'm glad you joined me again. As I said, I've got some of my favorite knitters here with me, and they've stayed through the break, so we're going to have some more conversation about some of our favorite knitting things, and I brought in a couple of things that I wanted to show to you guys, and I didn't know if they were products that you had seen before, and then I think maybe you brought some of your favorite things as well, and we'll do some sharing. So a couple of things that I carry in my knitting bag all the time, and I think I've had them here on this show before, is this chart, which I think most knitters cannot live without. It's a yarn requirement guide. So let's say you're at the shop and you don't have a specific pattern with you that you're going to be using that tells you how much you need of something, but you're thinking that you want to do, say, a basic sweater, and you want to go ahead and get the yarn. We'll say it's on sale that day, and you want to go ahead and get it while there's enough of it. You can look up in here. There's a chart for whatever size sweater that you want to do. What gauge you're using will help you figure out the yardage that you need. There are other projects as well: vests, socks, mittens, all kinds of things. And I can remember I had this in my knitting bag. I don't know if either one of you have been to the Pittsburgh Knitting Festival. It's coming up in February. And I had this with me last year, and there were some shoppers there that were very excited about buying some yarns and didn't know the yardages, and I whipped this out of my knitting bag, and I was sort of in the middle of all these knitters figuring out with them how much they would need of each of those yarns for the certain projects they sort of had in their minds. And this is my other favorite thing to carry in my bag, because I do socks all the time, and I'll be very upfront with you, that is my all-time socks. Everybody in my family has them. Lots of my friends have them that I have knitted for them. And this will tell you how long to make socks for each person's foot, because a hand-knitted sock is a little more of a custom fit than a store-bought sock. So if you know the person's shoe size, then you can figure out how long those socks need to be. And I find this really indispensable, especially if I'm doing it for a gift and it's somebody that I'm trying to surprise. You might know somebody's shoe size, or it's sometimes easy to find out their shoe size if you know their sister or their wife or somebody. So that's another thing that I always carry with me. My third thing, I'm going to see if my knitters know what this is.
I've never seen it.
It's actually technically not a knitting notion, I'll be honest with you, but I use it while I'm knitting. This is a book weight. You can get these at a bookshop. I think I paid $10 for this one. It is well worth 10 times that, in my opinion, because one of the things that I always wanted to do, because I love to read too, and a lot of times when we're knitting things like chemo caps or simpler projects, you can look away from it. You don't always have to look at your hands, but I could never hold the book and knit. So if I'm sitting at a desk or something in front of me, now I can weight the book so that the book stays open and I can read and knit at the same time. This has been like my favorite thing since I bought it a month ago. I have used it, I think, every single day because I love to do that. So if you go to your local bookshop and you look in the section where they have gifts for readers, that's generally where you're going to find something like this. Isn't that the silliest looking thing?
I don't
and
know
it's
if I'm
leather.
ready for that. I don't know.
I think if I can do it. You want to see how it has some weight to it? And it keeps my book open. Isn't that a great idea? Excellent. So what are some of the favorite things that you all use when you're, do you have a favorite kind of needles or anything that you'd want to share with the readers? Any notions that you use all the time, a specific kind of stitch marker or anything?
I don't know. I was doing socks, remember, with your group.
Right.
And I mean, I was doing okay, even though socks aren't my favorite. I get frustrated with socks. I do okay, but it's not, you know, something that's enjoyable. Now, maybe it was too small. I love to do Christmas stockings, and it's so much bigger than this intricate. But I just love something like this. And then remember, you showed us how to do the seed stitch stocking. I did this, and I don't get frustrated with this kind of stuff. I get frustrated with the little tiny things.
Right, right. Do you prefer to do them on the 2 circulars as opposed to double points? Do you?
I love circulars. I do.
That's the one argument you're going to find between knitters is who likes to use double points on their socks and who likes to use the circulars. I
use circular for everything, even things I make straight. I use circular.
Well, I sometimes do that too. I have a sleeve right now, and I'm working it flat, but it is. But I love my Denise needles.
Oh, okay, that's
which
what
is one of the
yeah.
I mean, you can't go wrong with those Denise needles. Yeah, but I'm finding it's running about 50-50 with sock knitters on the needle.
Yeah, because look, I changed from the double pointed to this.
Yeah, yeah. I think you had some needles that you wanted to show us today too, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, you said you haven't actually used these yet, but this is an innovation.
You can take it out.
You know, it's one of those things I've knitted forever. I'm not afraid to tell you I've knitted for over 30 years. And just when you think there couldn't possibly be another thing new in the knitting market, here they come. They now have, I'm trying not to laugh to even say this. It's so crazy to me. I'm sure they're fabulous. It's just so crazy to me. They have knitting needles with lights in them. So I'm assuming that if you're using dark yarn, this is very helpful.
Very good.
Right. Because we generally try to sit someplace with great lighting, but a lot of times you're going to find, especially I find in my living room, because my living room walls are dark red, even with the lights on, it's not as light as you might want it to be. And if you're working with a dark yarn, you're really fighting a losing battle there. So these have... Now, how do these work, Helen? You're going to have to help me out here.
Down here at the bottom.
Okay.
It tells you on, put on.
Okay. I'm seeing, oh, here we are. Oh, we have a little
a little guy
twist
there.
Okay. Katie, you take one and I'll take the other. But there's a little twist. Oh, here it is. I see it underneath now. Okay.
There.
I don't know if the cameras are going to be able to pick that up since we have the lights on.
Yeah,
is that one going on? Oh, do you have to take that sticker off?
I can't do it because I don't have enough fingernails.
Can you imagine that? Looks like a fairy wand, doesn't it, Mary Kate, with that little light at the end? Or maybe like when the lightning bugs are out in the yard? Do you guys ever chase the lightning bugs? Yeah, because you have a nice big yard, don't you?
These might be good if you have a husband who doesn't want you to leave in the middle of the night, and you can't resist knitting in the middle of the night. And my husband says, "You're not going, are you, Kate?" But
oh my gosh, that's a riot.
You're just gonna knit.
No, I generally just go to sleep. You sit up and knit.
Sometimes, you know, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't sleep, you can just get your flashlight knitting needles out.
Excellent. Is that one of the things that you literally do, is sit up in the middle of the night and knit? Because that was another question that I was going to ask you guys, is when is your favorite time to knit? Or do you have a favorite time to knit?
Well, it's quiet then. Our house is always a little bit noisy. So
well, maybe you should tell the viewers how many children you have. There's a reason that it's generally not too quiet at your house.
We have 9. We have 9 children. Yes, but some of them.
Well, we all sort of need to bow to Katie. I think that's so awesome.
Well, we have
and you are the
children.
Youngest.
Yes.
Yes. So Hannah is the oldest, and she is in her 20s.
Yes.
Yes, and then
the boys all next, and then Kate last.
7 boys, and then our little gift at the end, Mary Kate. We're just so glad you're here today. When is your favorite time to knit? When it's quiet at home? In the evening. After dinner, maybe? Yeah, Mom makes a really nice dinner, and then you sit down and you do your knitting, huh? Now, when you sit down and knit at home, since there's a lot of other people in the house, do you generally sit down with somebody else and knit? Is there usually somebody else knitting at the same time? Because some of the boys knit, don't they?
Yeah.
Once in a while?
Alex used to. I don't know if he'd want us to admit that.
Oh, okay. We won't say that on camera then. Yeah, we won't talk about that. Okay. Well, my son used to knit too. He probably wouldn't want me talking about it.
And it's so relaxing. I wish more people would.
Right.
But I don't know. There seems like there's
Right. Well, some of the biggest designers are men. So it seems so funny to me that the people that are really making sort of the big bucks, being the designers, are men. And then there's sort of that gray area, and then nobody wants to. Although, times like when there were wars and, people knitted for the soldiers and all of that, the men that were at home all knitted, and it was.
But I think knitting even went back to, on the boats, and they would have those giant, they would knit and tie knots and things like that. It's the same thing. It's just, for some reason, it's gotten away from that.
Yeah, which is really kind of unfortunate, because I think sometimes, people who are working really hard during the day and concentrating on something need that sort of creative release at night when they're not working. So I think it's sort of sad, that we have sort of an idea of it being pigeonholed into being
and
something
like
just for girls.
Women have been able to go into the men's thing and
right, but not so much.
No, they couldn't come over and do what they
really wanted to do. Yeah. You said you learned from a man, though.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, his mother was visiting it with my mother, and my girlfriend and I were sitting there and talking, and we were saying, gee, if we only could learn how to knit. And this woman said, you go see my John, and he'll show you. And I was shocked.
Yeah.
Because he was a married man and expecting his first child.
Right, right.
And he made the leggings, the sweater, the bonnet, the mittens.
Kind of like you did for Barbie, the whole ensemble, yeah.
And then he showed us how to do it. And then from there on in, I was on my own.
Right, right. And you were 12 then?
About 12.
About 12, yeah, yeah.
And like I say, I knitted and ripped and knitted and ripped, and finally I got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, when you got it right, you certainly took off with it.
And I just kept buying books and and I have some books that go back to 1974.
Really? Really?
And I just learned, and I didn't have anybody to ask.
Yeah.
There was no knitting schools.
Right. Right. Well, I'm so glad that I had my friends here today. I'd like to thank all three of them for being here. Mary Kate, thank you so much for being here again. And Helen and Katie, I really appreciate them being here. I hope you've enjoyed this taping of Knit On. As we go out, make sure that you have a pencil and paper ready. We're going to give you some more websites about charity knitting. So join us again for Knit On.